Fly, Kite Fly. The audio description of this documentary will run for 77 minutes, produced by HOVA Vision Association and authorized by director Liang, Chieh-Te. The audio description of Fly, Kite Fly will begin now. In 1991, Shen Zhenzhong began to observe black kites. To find out the reason why the black kite had been disappearing, Shen resolved to give up his career as a teacher. Independently, director Liang Chieh-Te has followed in Shen's footsteps, filming and recording his history as the guardian of the black kite. Now, 24 years later, this film has been completed with the support of all concerned. Standing on a cliff in the island of Taiwan is Shen Zhenzhong. He's viewing the scenery with his binoculars, scoping the island's lush green vegetation. The mountainous terrain is contrasted by the flat ocean. It's a color, a deep shade of blue. Two blackbirds fly together throughout the landscape, many large gray rocks beneath them.
Just wanting to find space to soar in the sky. It's such a simple wish. But for the black kite in Taiwan, this has become a distant dream.
The screen reads Fly, Kite Fly as the bird swoops over the title of the documentary. A black raptor sits still on a tree branch, its face a yellowish color.
Here in Taiwan, most people refer to all raptors as eagles. Taiwan has more than 30 different species of eagles and falcons. Most of them live in the wild, far away from humans.
Several birds are shown resting on different branches. They look in all directions as the camera focuses on the bird.
However, there is one species that lives close to us. It's the black kite, which in the Hokkien dialect is called lai hiu. Its scientific name is Milvus migrans. The black kite occurs throughout the world, whether it's an oasis in the desert, a harbor near the ocean, a town, a village, or even a modern city close to water and mountains. The black kite's habitat is never too far from humans.
The black kite flies against the city's buildings. Cars drive through in the background as the black kite swoops to a nearby harbor to look for fish to eat.
Like most raptors, the black kite hunts and preys on little mammals, insects, or fish.
A black kite tramples on a little lizard, pecking its beak on a lizard every now and then.
But actually, it prefers rotten meat, waste from human kitchens, dead fish floating on water, or sick, dying, and dead animals. In other words, the black kite has taken up the special role of a scavenger in nature.
A flock of black kites fly over a dump of human waste as they search for food. Among the birds is a stray white dog checking on the garbage.
The black kite enjoys eating its food while flying, and this is a unique skill.
Flying over the ocean, this black kite chews on its lunch.
"150 years ago, the black kite was added to Taiwan's bird catalog by the British naturalist Swen Ho, who had extensively recorded the wildlife species in Taiwan. Once very common, its population has rapidly declined since the 1980s. According to a survey of the Chinese Wild Bird Federation in 1991, only 175 black kites remained in Taiwan, which means that the black kite has become an endangered species here.
A black kite glides over water as it searches for food.
To find out the reason why the black kite has been disappearing, a biology teacher spent 20 years traveling all over the island to collate all his observations in a biography of the black kite. His name is Shen Zhenzhong, also known as Mr. Kite.
Shen Zhenzhong, wearing a hat and glasses, peers into his green spotting scope.
I grew up in Keelung. The first time I encountered black kites was there in 1991. Back then, I didn't know much about them really. However, since then, I somehow entered their world.
He stands near a bridge in Keelung City, looking through his binoculars for more birds.
Inspired by Jane Goodall and her way of observing chimpanzees in the wild, Shen transformed the traditional method of teaching biology. Instead of introducing living creatures by dissecting them, he took his students outdoors to observe nature. He also vowed to abide by Aldo Leopold's The Land Ethic.
I vow that I am a citizen of the land community, that I shall never cease to respect other fellow members of the community, such as soils, water, plants, and animals. Nature does not belong to us humans. I want to learn to share the land with other creatures. Due to my unique intelligence and ability, I have a greater responsibility and obligation to take into account the welfare of the entire biotic community when I use natural resources or alter the environment.
In his own free time, he often went birdwatching in the wild. Nowadays, Keelung is the only city where flocks of black kites can still be seen in Taiwan. Living here, Shen has enjoyed more opportunities to observe them.
Shen watches two light brown birds fly aimlessly about a tree.
In 1992, Shen discovered a black kite's breeding nest in the wild. He was the first person in Taiwan to do so.
A black kite rests on its breeding nest made out of a variety of twigs.
He built a very basic hide on the hill and prepared himself for long-term observation of the black kite's breeding behavior. He did not expect that, during the observation process, he would witness the tragic death of a female black kite that he had named White Spot, killed by a snare placed inside her nest by a hunter. In his notebook, Shen wrote sadly that, after the male came back, he screeched and flung himself about violently next to the female. Then he circled the nest 22 times at a terrifying speed, whilst wailing like a human. Following this incident, Shen and his friends resorted to wrapping the tree trunk with barbed wire to prevent hunters from getting close. He didn't want a similar tragedy to happen again.
The mountainous Taiwan and its many pockets of civilization is shown from an aircraft.
I discovered a black kite's habitat on the north coast. In 1993, the area of Keelung Wamushan was included within the Scenic Area Development Project, which could have deprived the black kites of their habitat. After hearing the news, I ran around non-stop and filed petitions everywhere. In the end, pressured by public opinion, the development project, which would have affected the black kite's habitat, was put on hold. However, despite the good news, something else happened that took me by complete surprise. A coastal road had been excavated quietly, and it cut right through the black kite's forest habitat. After that, they all disappeared.
An excavation truck digs deep into a piece of land.
I felt so disillusioned.
During that time of loss and agony, fate had given Shun another glimmer of hope.
2 black kites fly under a cloudy gray sky.
One of the female black kites that I had named HOVA laid 2 eggs. If the 2 eggs were to hatch successfully, they would have become the only successful breeding case that I had observed in 2 years. After my series of setbacks, there was nothing more I would have liked to see. But after sitting on the eggs for nearly a month, Ho did not return to her nest for many days. Worried, I first reported it to the authorities and then retrieved the eggs, trying to understand what had gone wrong.
Shen is in a laboratory. He examines 2 black kite eggs that never hatched.
I cut a hole in the shells and watched the chicks already covered in down slide out with the egg white. All the blood vessels in their bodies were still bright red.
Faced with the parent bird deserting the nest for reason unknown and the chicks having no chance to hatch, Shun was weighed down by tremendous sadness. Watching those tiny bodies that would never wake up, Shun felt that his endurance was being stretched to the limit. He cried inside, "Why don't you fly? Why don't you make a sound? Fly! Please fly!"
He stares in sorrow at the dead chicks.
Within 2 short years, Shun had witnessed a breeding female killed by a snare, a whole population disappear, and a parent bird deserting her own nest. Confronted with the dire situation that there were now just over 100 black kites remaining in Taiwan, Shun asked himself, was he any different from the other 23 million Taiwanese? Perhaps prompted by such deep self-questioning, Shun decided to devote himself to safeguarding the black kite. In 1993, Shun and a group of local friends who cared about birds established the Wild Bird Society of Geelong. Together, they started to promote black kite conservation. Later, he resolved to resign from his teaching job so he could focus full-time on studying and researching the black kite.
Different clips of birds flying in nature are shown.
When it comes to birds of prey, there are actually a wide variety of different species. Each has its own distinct characteristics, preferred food, and scientific name. For most people, it's actually not easy to identify different species of raptors. Sometimes, even experienced birders may not be able to differentiate between a bezra and a crested goshawk. Both types of raptors have lines on their bodies, like those on tree trunks. With this perfect camouflage, they both specialize in ambush in the woods. This is the biggest raptor in Taiwan, the black eagle. It has a wingspan of 180 centimeters. Yet this giant can skillfully weave through the dense forest in search of prey. Squirrels and flying squirrels are its favorites.
Black eagle swoops down to his tree, its wings span wide. The raptor flies to its nest. It rests there for a few seconds and proceeds to depart. A relative of the raptor pecks at its offspring.
The crested serpent eagle is another kind of raptor that most people should be more familiar with. It is also renowned for feeding on snakes.
The crested serpent eagle slurps on a small snake.
In nature, everything has its vanquisher. The hornet is notorious, even sometimes appearing in the news for stinging people to death. Yet the honey buzzard can destroy its hive without fear.
4 honey buzzard gnaws on a hornet hive, unmoved by the buzzing hornets.
Raptors' vision is 8 times sharper than humans. They each hunt in different styles.
2 raptors chase each other on the ground, their wings flapping against another.
This common kestrel is characteristically hovering in the air, searching for prey. It faces the wind, with its body drifting, but its head remaining absolutely still. It watches intently for movement in the grass. From about 10 to 20 meters above, even the smallest of prey on the ground cannot escape its keen eyes. Raptors sit on top of the food chain, but survival is actually not easy for them. They are not only threatened by man, they must also endure unpredictable natural disasters. In the mountains of northern Taiwan, many Okinawa pines have died of pinewood nematode disease. The 3 black kite nests that Shun discovered in Waimushan were all built in Okinawa pines. None of those 3 nest trees survived. Shun has always been careful not to disclose the locations of the nest trees he found. However, after the black kite community in Waimushan disappeared, he and the Geelong Wild Bird Society organized activities called Visit the Black Kite's Home. They led fellow birders to the black kite breeding site. At the end of the visit, under the nest tree where White Spot was killed by a snare, a eulogy was recited.
A group of bird watchers and tourists congregate on the coast to prepare for a trip to see the bird's home.
It went like this. Am I telling a story? Not long ago, your dreams for the future were still here. Dreaming of baby black kites' wings growing strong, strong enough to take them soaring into the sky over the sea. Then at dusk, you could gather by the lover's lake and rest peacefully, waiting for another carefree flight in the first ray of daylight. But hunters came, diggers came, and all the developments that people weren't sure of came. After that, baby black kites were no more. Family get-together in the evening was no more. Nothing remained. You were dead. You left. The eyes of these Okinawa pines are red from crying, and the sea surrounding the fishing villages has slowly changed color.
2 birds fly across a harbor in Taiwan. The water is crystal clear blue with ships roaming above.
In Taiwan, Geelong Harbor and the black kite are almost synonymous.
The Geelong sign is displayed on top of a mountain.
To help people get to know the black kite, every year the Wild Bird Society of Geelong organizes the kite season at the harbor front. Volunteers from the Bird Society never miss an opportunity to talk to passers-by about these birds of our neighborhood. Everything about their life and their stories. The result of this effort was a positive change of attitude from the general public towards the black kite. Promoted by the Wild Bird Society of Geelong, the black kite was voted the emblem bird of Geelong City in 1999. After a series of endeavors, people slowly began to understand the intention of Shen and the Bird Society. Many enthusiastic people called the Bird Society to provide information about black kites. These reports were passed on to Shen. For example, one of the callers reported that he'd seen nearly 100 black kites in Zhangwon Reservoir. Another said he'd seen 20 to 30 black kites gathered in Maolin, Kaohsiung during the 1990s. After receiving messages from all over Taiwan, starting in 1996, Shen expanded the scope of his investigation to cover the whole island. From north to south, with binoculars and a tripod on his back, he rode his old motorbike from one remote site to another. Between Zhangwon Reservoir and Sandiman in southern Taiwan, there were two larger black kite populations.
Shen pierced through his scope to find two birds chasing each other over the wet marsh.
During the black kite breeding season, I would rent a boat covering every corner of the reservoir, searching for the forests where they bred.
Shen uses his binoculars as he rides on a small boat across the water. A black kite soars overhead.
From 1996 to 2010, the number of black kites here remained stable at about 50.
Perched on the southern tip of Taiwan, Pingdong's Wutai Township boasts stunning mountain views and the largest black kite population on this island.
The sun appears as the gray clouds move away from the city.
Black kites often cruise and forage along Ailiao Creek next to Sandiman. But on holidays, people come here to picnic and barbecue.
On this creek, people are cooking barbecue with their families.
When they're disturbed, black kites roosting here will fly away from the human crowd and perch in nearby trees to watch, wait, and sunbathe.
As the families cook their food, a family of black kites perch on a nearby tree, eyeing the food below.
When the holiday is finally over and the human crowd has left, the only things left behind are charred black traces everywhere and loads of garbage. At dawn the following morning, they will fly to this restaurant without a signboard. They gather around the barbecue remains very much like humans, picking up meat scraps dropped by people.
A family of black kites swoop down to the creek and begin searching and eating the leftover barbecue remains.
Perhaps the flavor of human food is a little too strong. After feeding on it, they will go to the creek and have a drink.
Perched next to the waters, a group of black kites dip their beaks to rehydrate themselves.
True to their name, black kites drift in the air just like kites. They are very playful. Whether alone or with others, they always act like children, playing together and chasing one another.
black kites chase each other against a clear blue sky. They fly aimlessly in circles.
Things like scrap paper, plastic bags, or twigs are their favorite toys, and black kites love to play with them.
A black kite drops a pink plastic bag into the ocean and flies down to catch it before it enters the water. Similarly, another black kite drops a twig and playfully catches it mid-air.
These playthings that they pick up and drop constantly are also good for nesting material.
A black kite swoops down to meet his female companion perched on a tree limb. They begin to mate.
Spring is the black kite breeding season in Taiwan. Inside its nest, there are always a lot of human items to be found.
Flying towards a tree branch, a black kite picks up a plastic bag from its nest.
Things such as underwear, bras, nylon strings, gloves, plastic bags, etc. The female kite typically lays 1 to 2 eggs in the nest, but occasionally there are 3. Both the male and female kites take turns to brood. Newborn chicks are confronted with many survival tests.
Clouds overhead begin to merge with one another. The birds prepare for a windy rainfall.
These 2 chicks were hatched only a week ago. Unfortunately, a storm came and lasted for days. When the storm finally eased up, the parent birds left for reasons unknown. Later, the storm regained force, but the parent bird still did not return. Defenseless, the 2 little chicks were left battered by strong wind and heavy rain.
2 newly born chicks sit atop their nests without the safeguard of their parents as the storm regains strength. As the rain continues pouring down on them, the 2 chicks look helplessly for help. Water pounds their bodies as the wind moves them.
Unable to withstand the weather beating, both eventually died. By comparison, this nest has much better luck. These two chicks are about 3 weeks old. When they hatched, they were already covered in gray down, as opposed to the white down of most other raptors' chicks. The larger chick viciously drove the smaller one away, preventing the latter from getting fed. This competitive behavior is typical amongst raptors. When the food supply is scarce, this naturally boosts the survival rate for at least one chick. Only when there is plenty of food will the smaller chick have a chance to live. Parent kites work very hard during the breeding season. They not only have to look for food near or far, they also must defend the nest against intruding predators. This crested serpent eagle has broken into their breeding territory. Though smaller in size, to protect their chicks, the black kite risks its own life to expel the intruder.
A crested serpent eagle and a black kite battles it out in the sky, one chasing the other ferociously. They begin in the open sky on top of trees, then swiftly move into the woods, where they maneuver the dense forest. The crested serpent eagle continues to chase the black kite.
It takes almost 50 days before the young bird can leave the nest. This nest was lucky, for both fledglings have survived.
A mother black kite sits afar from her children. She calls on them to fly to her. One successfully flew right next to her.
Since the larger fledgling has already left the nest, his parents must now monitor both at the same time. One parent takes charge outside the nest, the other is circling above the nest with food, enticing the one remaining in the nest to venture out soon. But it doesn't succeed.
In 1994, during the early stage of my black kite research, I wanted to study the juvenile's behavior after they leave the nest. So I worked with bending staff from the Birds Society to try to bend the black kites.
In addition to measuring each part of the young bird's body and putting a ring on it, Shun also tried to apply dye to help identify it in the field. Three months later, the dye used to mark the feathers of this young bird had almost completely faded. It flew away from the original breeding area to join another population 20 kilometers away. Outside the breeding season, black kites tend to congregate in autumn and winter. Coming from different directions, they always return to the communal roosting site at dusk. Some will wait in trees, others will circle above until their numbers grow larger and larger. Shen would make use of such a time to conduct a roll call.
A flock of black kites swirl in the dark orange sky during dusk as Shen watches them through his binoculars. He stands on the riverbank as the birds circle the sky aimlessly.
When the black kites flew by in a line, one after another, I could count them accurately, so I called that my evening roll call.
They would continue flying until it got dark. Then they would land together to roost overnight. After the Wild Bird Society of Geelong came into being, people began to drop off injured birds that needed medical attention. One of them was a black kite with a broken wing. Shen named it Babe.
Shen holds a wooden cross on which a black kite, Babe, perched on top.
He tended it with care for more than 2 years. He also took it back to the open country from time to time to allow the general public to observe the black kite up close and to keep Babe in touch with its original environment. Shen even helped it return to the sky where it used to soar.
When a bird, especially a raptor, flies in the sky, it must be a wonderful experience. It can circle, glide, dive, or chase one another, and even catch insects or grab a piece of paper in midair.
The veteran black kite watcher, Shen Zhenzhong, decided to let Babe go in a paraglider so that Babe should feel what it's like to fly again.
I met a member of Taipei Paragliding Association who happened to be training paragliders at that time. I mentioned the idea to him. He said yes right away, and even tailor-made a sling for Babe to start with. For some reason, Babe rejected the sling, so they decided to try carrying a cage with Babe inside it.
Shen paraglides into the ocean, holding a blue cage with Babe tucked inside.
After liftoff, the little black kite opened its remaining wing to balance itself in the wind. Flying seemed to be a distant memory, but this wonderful ride had reawakened Babe's instinct. Ruthless treatment by humans can often disable or break the wing of the bird in the wild. These people lovingly gave it back a pair of invisible wings instead. Lin Guanghan, Wang Zhiren, Shen Peizhi reporting for Formosa TV.
After years of hard work, black kite's conservation gradually gained ground. Once I attended a tourism development conference. After I reported on the black kite's survival status, a participating legislator blurted out, "Kite? There are so many in other countries." At a bird seminar in 1997, I presented the same survival status report. The audience was again puzzled at the black kite situation in Taiwan. They all said that black kites were ubiquitous in other countries. This got me thinking, what had gone wrong for the black kites in Taiwan then? All these doubts made me feel that maybe I should take a look overseas.
In 1997, Shun made a promise to the black kite, a 20-year care plan. At the same time, he published stories about the 3 breeding pairs. That series of books recorded the struggle between humans and black kites as part of Taiwan's urbanization process.
2 mates fly together in the rich green forest.
Shun has always led a simple and natural life. In his home, he has nothing but the 4 bare walls. Apart from ceiling lights, a phone on the desk, and an old computer given to him, there are no other appliances or furniture.
Inside of Shun's room contained little furnishment. His room is mostly empty space with a few wooden shelves and plastic bins sporadically bordering the room's perimeter and center.
But he has painstakingly collected and kept his notebooks from years of black kite observation. It is these black kite stories that have inspired researchers from a new younger generation to carry the torch of black kite conservation.
Shun and a high school student watch a black kite fly.
I joined the Biological Research Society in my second year of high school. I loved watching and read every book on birds that I could find. One time I found Chiang's book, The Eagle Story, in Kingston bookstore. I started reading it in the store. He was telling the black kite's love story. When I finished the book, I cried there and then. The book had a really tragic ending and was really very sad. I couldn't understand why these kites, living in the wild in their own elements, had to die. Shen, why did you make a vow to volunteer for 20 years?
Oh, that's a long story. In Wamushan, I saw too many black kites whose lives ended tragically. There were 3 breeding pairs. Within a year, I saw them breed, and then I watched misfortune strike. Some of them got chased by dogs, some got killed by snares. Then their habitat was developed and destroyed, forcing 19 of them to flee.
19 of them fled?
西滨快速道路，然后那个时候想说奇怪，为什么才1年内就看到那么多他们不是很好的结果，所以可能想说是他们要替他们做记录，然后所以那个时候就辞职啊，而且那个时候想说，如果只是做1、2年，可能看不到什么东西，所以想说要做个20年。那为什么是20年呢
？Why 20 years?
因为我们一般照顾一个孩子要照顾他独立长大。
Till he or she grows up and becomes independent, graduates from college and finds a job. It generally takes about 20 years. And I also watched a documentary about working with chimpanzees for 20 years.
Shun's caring for the black kite not only influenced the younger generation in Taiwan, but also inspired bird lovers from Hong Kong. In 2001, Hong Kong citizen Xu Shiyong accidentally discovered a black kite nest on a hill in her neighborhood. Desiring to know more about these big birds, she found online reports of Shun's black kite study and decided to seek advice from across the ocean.
Since I had no bird watching experience, and because Mr. Shen had already begun black kite conservation work in Taiwan, I contacted him. I read all the information he shared online, and I felt moved when I got in touch with him. Several experienced Hong Kong birders said to me, Taiwan is not that far. Why don't you buy a plane ticket and fly over there for some lessons? It sounded like a good idea. My husband supported me, so I made an appointment to visit Mr. Chiang. For me, counting black kites with Mr. Shane was like stargazing. He would count 1, 2. There was a fallen papaya tree next to us. I saw so many flies on that papaya tree. To me, those flies seemed bigger and easier to count. He made a vow for 20 years. I told myself I would make a vow for 10 years then.
Shen and his Hong Kong friend cruised along the waters as they watched for black kites.
Shu's exchange study rekindled an old desire of Shun's to visit black kites overseas. 2 months later, sponsored by the Wild Bird Society of Keelung, Shun began his overseas black kite journey. The first stop for Shun was Hong Kong. Hong Kong people call the black kite Ma Ying. This is a densely populated modern metropolitan city right by the sea. Hong Kong's environment is a bit like that of Keelung, except the buildings are much taller and more tightly squeezed together. The area of Hong Kong is only 1/34 of Taiwan, but its black kite population is more than 3 times larger.
Shen and his friend watched black kites fly in the sky after sunset.
During the day, they forage at sea. At dusk, they gather here in one of the most expensive gated subdivisions in Hong Kong. The number of black kites coming in from all directions to spend the night in this valley is immense. Watching such a huge flock in action, Shun was stunned.
Hong Kong's skyscrapers light the sky as boats cruise along the harbor.
Across the river from Hong Kong was the coastal area of Guangdong, China. Shun traveled 1,000 kilometers there, visiting countless rivers, rice paddies, and wetlands. He tried searching for black kites, but in the end saw only 10 tiny birds flying by.
Shen peers out of the train window to watch birds, but there are none in the sky.
Then, as he walked on the street, he inadvertently saw the sign of a restaurant that said, "Cat and dog meat, buy 2 caddies, get 1 caddy free." Shun knew that must be the answer. Japan is an advanced country, but in many places, they have kept to their traditional ways. In November 2001, Shun spent 7 days in Japan, stopping in Kyoto, Sendai, Kamakura, and a few other cities. Although these cities were all very lively and busy, he found their rivers and coasts still looked very natural, with many resident birds. Shun said he could feel that humanity and nature coexisted in harmony there.
Shen watches birds comfortably sunbathing on the creek near a busy bridge in Sendai, Japan. Different species of birds rinse themselves in the river's water.
But I noticed there was something strange. Black kites like to perch on buildings and look around as if waiting for something, unlike in Taiwan, where black kites fly in the sky looking for prey most of the time.
Several black kites perch on top of a house.
And I saw locals throwing bread to black-headed gulls. I recalled Taiwanese friends telling me that if food was thrown downward, it was meant for the black-headed gulls. If upward, then it was meant for the black kites. Sure enough, next time I saw people throwing bread into the air, all the black kites instantly took off and flew towards it in concert.
White seagulls hover beneath their black kite counterparts as citizens throw pieces of food at them. Next to a white bridge, a man throws bread on the ground for white seagulls and bread in the air for black kites. Both birds congregate simultaneously.
I
tried to do the same so I could experience close encounters with these wild birds.
Shen imitates the man, throwing food on the floor and into the sky as flocks of birds surround him.
In Kamakura, I took a bag of kitchen waste from a private house and went to the beach. As soon as I let it go, a big flock of black kites and crows rushed over, and the next minute, every bit of the waste was gone. Even the garbage bag was snatched away by a black kite. I also observed in the village next to Lake Biwa flocks of black kites playing in the sky or resting in rice paddies after harvest time.
Shun said that scenes like that made him sigh. Though Japan is more developed than Taiwan, they had managed to preserve many scenes from the agricultural era, like the eagle coming to snatch little chicks. But in Taiwan, such scenes have gradually disappeared without us noticing.
A family of black kites rests on a farmland behind a rural neighborhood.
Delhi, India, an intensely populated city. Horse carts, bicycles,
At the end of
tuk-tuks,
2001,
trucks, and
I
all
arrived
sorts
in
of old
India
and
around
modern
midnight.
transport.
After
And of
resting
course
in
the
the hotel for a
pedestrians
few
are
hours, I was
zigzagging on the
woken up
road.
by the cries of black kites at dawn. The noise came from the sacred fig tree right next to the hotel. That tree was surrounded by residential houses. It was exactly as one Taiwanese raptor expert had said. No need to look for them. Black kites will be outside the hotel window, and they nest there too. In the following days, I was taken by surprise again and again. Standing on a busy road in Delhi, I could watch black kites mating and building nests.
接下来几天更让我惊奇连连。当我站在德里的马路
In front
上，
of a big
就看到
hospital,
黑鸢在
I
交
saw
配
nearly
跟筑巢。
200 black kites roosting in trees, but people did not drive them off even for sanitary reasons.
在一所大型医院门口，我看到将近200只的黑鸢在树上过夜，人们却没有因为担心卫生问题而赶走它们。
An abundance of black kites roam near and on a hospital building during sunset.
德里市区的运动场边，
Next to the sports
数百只
stadium
黑
in
鸢集
downtown
结着，
Delhi, hundreds
因为
of
这里的
black
人们
kites
会将
gathered
食物抛
because
向
people
空
would
中给
throw
它们
food
吃。
up in the air and feed them.
这样的场
Things
景
like
每
that
天都会
happen
发
every
生。
day.
一幕幕人与黑鸢之
Scene
间
after
交错
scene
的画
of
面，
people and black kites
地面和
mixing
空中一
together,
样
on
拥
the
挤
ground
而
or
嘈
in the
杂。
air, and all
这
equally
让第一次
crowded
来
and
到印度
noisy.
的我，
That
被
was my
眼前的
first time
景
in
象给
India.
震慑住。
I was mesmerized.
As in Japan, Shun visited the countryside. He said he could always see black kites resting in the crop fields. He felt as if he'd been transported back to the countryside in Taiwan 40 or 50 years ago. India has the second largest human population in the world. The gap between the rich and poor is huge, but you will not see anyone hunting, selling, or eating wildlife in the city. In today's Taiwan, no one need worry about food or clothing. Yet Shen saw with his own eyes a hunter placing a snare in a black kite nest. In contrast, poor people in India will share their food with wild animals.
A man in a red shirt prays to the temple in Kathmandu.
Kathmandu, the capital of Nepal. The monkey temple up on the hill in a suburb boasted the oldest stupas in the country. It's also a famous scenic spot. People bring offerings there to worship Buddha. Next to the people, hundreds of monkeys play, waiting to steal the offerings. With eyes looking around Kathmandu, Buddha guards the city. Around 9 o'clock, after their breakfast, black kites fly over here one after another, getting ready for a rest. Just like the tourists, they enjoy sunbathing and looking out over the Kathmandu Valley.
Black kites swirl above the city's valley. The birds perch on a tree limb, looking out into the vast city of Kathmandu. A group of tourists look beyond a balcony from the monkey temple in Kathmandu to observe the giant valley filled with residential and commercial buildings.
In my eyes,
the river that flows through the city was a filthy and stinky ditch, but for the local people, it was the center of their life. People worshipped here. They also threw their garbage in the river. People brought their cows here to drink and to bathe. Pigs wandered around freely. At the slaughter ground by the river, people threw offal that no one wanted onto the riverbank to make compost. This attracted ravens and black kites.
A flock of black kites searches for food in a compost near a Nepaalian river as crows scavenges on the meat remains of wild stock.
In the evening, the black kites left the monkey temple and congregated near a garbage dump. They waited here for dinner time. After the garbage workers left the dump, flock after flock of black kites swooped down eagerly, and the ground looked like a free-range chicken farm. Even more black kites filled the sky above. As far as the eye could see, there were lines after lines of black kites hanging in the air, like dancing music notes.
Hundreds of black kites tend to the garbage site as people pass by on the nearby sidewalk. Lines of black kites line several cable wires, their tails moving back and forth as the wind blew on them. A farmer sporadically sprays chemical pesticides on his field. black kite is released from a white box before it flies into the valley.
After sunset, tranquility reclaimed the land. In a tree by a bridge, Shun counted the largest number of black kites he had observed in the past decade. There were 384 black kites in one single tree.
The other black kite lies
the
on the
total black
treatment
kite
table as it
population
struggles
in
to fight for
Taiwan
life.
at the time fell short of 200 individuals.
An aerial view of the landscape is shown with clouds shadowing the ground. A black kite soars through the sky.
At the beginning of 2002, after his overseas trip, Shun wrote the following entry in his notebook. I have no words to describe the scenes witnessed in the 5 different countries that I visited in 2001.
Shun looks across the crop fields, observing black kites
as many
through the
as
skirt.
500 to 700 black kites flying just 30 meters in front of me. That sight was something beyond my imagination. After my
Flocks of
observations
different birds
black
hover
kites in
over the crop
Taiwan,
field as the
it is
harvest
indeed
vehicle
true
rides
that
over the
black
land.
kites are everywhere in other countries. Why did
A farmer
Taiwan's
plants a
black
leaf
kite
into his
disappear?
water.
After traveling thousands of kilometers, Shun seemed to have found the answer. But in the meantime, it was as if he'd lost it. More than 10 years later,
through the sky.
between 2012 and 2013, a young researcher, Lin Huishan, seemed to have found the answer at the largest black kite habitat in Pingdong.
2 black kites rest on their nests on top of a tree, a valley backdrop behind them. A view of Taipei
We
is
were
shown.
notified by
Taipei
Dr.
101
Xiao
standing
Xing
tall
that
against the
2
many
dying
shorter
black
buildings.
kites had been dropped off at
Shun
the
stands
Pingdong
on top
County
of a rock
government.
overlooking
They
the
showed
valley.
signs
He
of
searches for
poisoning
black
and
kites as the
neurological
sunlight
reactions.
ray
This
shines
one
on
had
him.
markings on its wings. Dr. Xiao thought that it must have been abandoned by our researchers, so he notified me. Both birds eventually died. They were picked up by locals in October, so we conducted
Shun raises his arms,
testing for
imitating a bird
pesticides.
preparing to fly.
The only abnormalities were the levels of
A black kite dies in the
environmental
sky.
toxicity and carbofuran.
The credits
Both
section
had
begins.
extremely high
The
carbofuran
audio
reading of
description is complete.
2.49 ppm. According to foreign standards, such levels are sufficient to kill any common bird. Obviously, both kites had died of acute poisoning. It was if they had drunk liquid pesticides. This is a red dove that had just died. It still feels warm.
In autumn 2013, Lin followed the clues left by the previous year. During the crop changeover period, Lin went to a red bean field that had just sprouted. In shock, she found a large number of dead birds. More than 3,000 sparrows, red doves, and other birds had dropped dead in the field.
A pile of dead birds are stockpiled on the crop field.
What was more worrying was that she also witnessed a lot of black kites coming over to scavenge on the dead birds.
I spent the whole day investigating here yesterday. After I went home, I began to vomit and feel terrible. I rubbed my eyes and felt this sharp pain. Then I realized my eyes had swollen up. Since I couldn't stop vomiting violently, I went to the ER. The doctor told me that I had pesticide poisoning. During the busy farming time, after spraying pesticide in the morning, many farmers have to see the doctor because they had not taken enough precautions. That's why I'm wearing an N95 mask, gloves, long sleeves, and pants today. I hope I'm not going to get poisoned in this toxic crop field again.
After the Second World War, DDT insecticide was heavily applied throughout the world to eliminate various agricultural pests. This caused a global wildlife massacre, killing many raptors by toxins accumulated in the food chain. Nowadays, although DDT is prohibited in Taiwan, another highly toxic pesticide called carbofuran is still widely used. This pesticide has actually already been banned in Europe and America. Although its powdery form is banned in Taiwan, its granule form is not and is still being applied extensively. Why is the black kite, once familiar to Taiwanese, now disappearing in Taiwan? According to World Economic Forum data, the pesticide dosage used per hectare of agricultural land in Taiwan is the highest in the world. It is 5 times the global average. Unfortunately, locals found 2 more poisoned black kites this year.
This valley belongs to the black kite.
Fortunately, one survived after treatment. Named Xiaodingling, this black kite will soon return to the sky, which it hasn't seen for a long while.
Do you feel moved?
I'm lost for words. I have released wildlife before, but never like today. Normally, when animals are first released, they panic and struggle on the ground, but Xiaodingling was different. The moment it was set free, it behaved like a free and wild black kite.
不知道该怎么讲，放过那么多次，但是我真的觉得，因为我没有看过，就是通常动物一出去的时候，他们通常是会先惊慌，然后找地方。因为我看到小叮当、小叮铃是一出去之后，就展现黑猿应该有的行为跟那种气魄。
Xiaodingling returned to the sky where it belongs, but this one did not escape from death.
The rat poisons on the table here were all brought from local pesticide stores in Pingdong. We can see that there are actually many different types of rat poison.
It was discovered that
this
it
one
wasn't
is subsidized
pesticide
by the
poisoning,
government
but
and
rat poison
given to
that it had
farmers for
ingested.
free, called warfarin.
Taiwan's agricultural authorities freely distribute hundreds of tons of rat poison to farmers each year. Without tracking its effect, the harm done to the wildlife must be enormous. Lin's lab in NPUSD continues to monitor the use of rat poisons.
现在桌上的这些老鼠药是我们从屏东这附近的农药行买来的。那可以看到，就是老鼠药的品牌其实非常多种。这个是政府补助供农地使用的老鼠药，它是氟灭鼠。然后根据我们访问凤梨田农民的结果，发现他们最喜欢用的其实是这一种。他就说，他1分地大概就要放300小包左右。那就是放的方法就是看田里面的老鼠洞，有老鼠洞，他就在洞口放几包，这样。
Are pesticides and rat poison the #1 killer then?
When a person devotes himself to observing and researching a species for 20 years, he must have abundant field experience to share. This sort of experience cannot be obtained just by doing research and studying in the lab, only by walking in the field. I was very fortunate to have him as my mentor. It has facilitated my field observation skills tremendously.
这个是在你在研究室里头低头埋头看书所无法获得的事情。你唯有真的走出野外，你才能够有获得。如果我能够由他带领着我的话，其实我在野外的观察上面，其实顺利非常非常多。
In 2012, Shen Zhenzong completed his 20-year black kite project. In the same year, he retired without a pension. But the guardian of the black kite has passed the baton to the young generation.
So we tried to communicate with the landlord. He agreed not to poison the birds and instead to cast more seeds for the birds. He also agreed not to spray defoliants during the harvest time and try to grow eco-friendly red beans. What is the biggest difference?
It's much more relaxed.
然后地主后来也愿意，就是多播一些种子给鸟吃，不毒鸟，然后在收成的时候不洒落叶剂，尝试做一个友善红豆。最大的差别在哪里？
比较轻松了，
比较轻松啊。
Lin has visited farmers everywhere to promote raptor-friendly farming concepts. The farmer who owns the field where a large number of dead birds were
Previously, I
found
came
in
here to pick up
2014
dead birds.
has stopped
Today,
poisoning the
I'm
birds
here to pick up
or
red
using
beans,
defoliant to
so I
harvest
feel
red
very
beans
happy.
after
When I
receiving
saw people
all-round
picking up
concern.
red beans after the
The
harvest,
result
I
has been
knew
a
that
recovery
actually
of the
we are
land's
cherished the crop.
biodiversity.
Lots of sparrows and swallows and all these cabbage white butterflies.
然后，而且我看到就是在收成的时候，后面有一些人在捡红豆，就觉得其实大家都非常珍惜这些东西。对，有很多麻雀跟燕子，然后你看这边很多文白蝶啊，其实文白蝶还蛮多的。
Previously, when birds were being heavily poisoned, you wouldn't see one bird here. There were no birds here at all. So the difference in ecology now is tremendous.
像之前毒鸟毒很凶的时候，其实这边是一只鸟你都见不到的，其他的鸟是完全见不到的，所以整个生态相是差别非常非常大。
The kite is the ambassador between the countryside and the forest. It delivers warning signs about Taiwan's many years of entrenched farming habits. In reality, we share the same land with kites. If we don't change our way of thinking, maybe one day our children will not hear insects or birds anymore, and they will never see birds and farmland coexisting in harmony. In 2014, led by Liang, the Raptor Research Group of Taiwan resumed their biannual Black Kite Evening Gathering Survey throughout Taiwan, which takes place in autumn and winter. Many volunteers jointly participate across the island, carrying on what Shen Zhenzong had done for 20 years. Of course, Shen volunteers as well. Being 60 years of age, Shen still travels a lot by himself. He continues to observe black kites in northern Taiwan. He feels that in the past 2 decades, people from society have never failed to support him, and so it's only natural that he should support others now. For Shen, guarding the black kite for 20 years was like parenting for others. The difference being, he has dedicated himself unselfishly to care for another type of animal that shares the same island with us, namely, the black kite.
Written by Tommy Duong and narrated by Stacy Chiang, Anderson Guo, and Tommy Duong, the audio description of Kite Fly is completed. Appreciation goes to Hope Vision Association for providing audio description services and fighting for equal rights for accessible information.